everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shelly Geigel with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today I have a free tutorial for you. It's how to make this large folio, and this is with For the Love of Winter paper. And you know I like snowmen. So what you see here are two different ones. One that I created with craft colored cardstock, and one that has white. And in the tutorial I use white cardstock, but I wanted to show you side by side so that you can choose which color you'd like to use. So even though I'm using white, you can use craft. So let's take a look. First up, you will see that Snowman has some stickles on him. And this is 6 1/4 inch by 8 1/4 inch, and about a 1 1/2 inch spine on this side, and I think about 1 3/8 on this side. And it's just adorable. I love this paper. So this is a step-by-step tutorial that's going to follow the materials list. And if you're a beginner, please be confident to know that I do take you step by step with this. And let's take a look at what we're going to be making. So it is very similar to my other folios that I did. However, the design inside is a little different. And this holds a lot of photographs. So I'm going to open it up. And first thing you're going to see over here is a nice size picture mat. And you can tuck a photo, a smaller one, right back in there. I could actually get this one in there if I cropped it down a little. But as you can see, you can get something back behind in there. So we're just going to open that right on up. And first thing you see over here is the pocket. And I just have some picture mats in there. And the paper is just adorable. I love it. Now I'm going to open this up. Now over here, what we have is a picture mat, and you can just slide your photograph right on in there and it will frame it with your nice craft paper and your decorated paper. And right down in here, this is a tuck as well, so if you want to put a little tag in there, you can do that too. Also with this, you can slide picture mats back behind. So I'm going to open that up, and there's places here to place photographs, and then we have another pocket. And I just have some picture mats in there. Okay, I'm just going to fold that right on over. Let's go into the second part. And this is huge. You can put a large size photo in there. Just place it right down there if you'd like. Opening it up, there's another place for another photograph. You can place right on in there. And this opens up, and we've got our two waterfalls. So you can actually fit 10 photos on this waterfall using front and back. And we did conserve paper. So on this one, you can get 10 photographs plus one down here. Over here, the same thing. And then 2 photographs, depending on the size that you're using. This one here that I'm using, I always forget the size of this, but this photograph happens to be about 3 1/2 by about 4 5/8 long. So you can actually get a couple of those in there, or just one good size or a larger one in there. So this just comes back over. Now we're going to come over to the third panel set here, and all I did was I cut a picture mat and I tucked it right back up in here. And we create this so that you can tuck underneath there. And if you want to place a photograph right on your picture mat, it would look something like this and have that nice border around there, or just place a photograph. But I did take advantage of that tuck to get another, so I can get 2 photographs in there. Okay, so this folds out, place your photographs, and I'll just flip that open. Here you can place your photographs, a lot of places for pictures, and we fold that out. What we have are 2 large side pockets in this one, and that's where it differs from the other folio. So I have a couple picture mats in here. And there's lots of room, so I can get more in there if I wanted to. Over here, the same thing. We have a large side pocket. Get quite a few, and I can get more if I wanted. And right up here, there is a tuck, so you can place another photograph back in there, another picture mat, and then this opens up, so you can get a smaller picture in there. Okay, we are not done. Right here is a tuck area. You can place a photograph right on in there this way, or you can go this way. But even so, you can actually create another picture mat and tuck it right on in there on top of it. So you can get quite a bit of photographs in there. This opens up, and again, more photographs can be placed. That opens up, and what you have here is like a folder pocket. So first things first is back here is the pocket. Get those out. I just have some picture mats in there. Stick them on back in. Same thing over here. Go. Just stick them on in there. And then you can place photos here, and then you can flip it up and get 4 more photos. And then you can get a couple photos that this size in here. You can place a larger one or a different size. So that is what we are creating today. It is super simple, and I will take you through it. Let's move into the materials list. Materials list. So what we're using in this folio is For the Love of Winter, and you're going to need 2 packs. Now you won't use the full second pack. I think we're only going to use about maybe 4 sheets out of that. But just look at those colors. I love it. So you're going to need that, 2 of those. Now I'm going to use white cardstock, 12 by 12, and this is the American Crafts 80 pound. The other one I showed you in the beginning was used with the 12 by 12 American Crafts 80 pound, and I believe it was caramel or brown sugar. I can't remember. They're both crafty colored. So choose whichever one that you liked. You might want some stickles. It's not necessary. This one is Stardust or Diamond Woodwork or Crystal, but it's just to put it on the snowman on the cover here. You're going to need some glue, and I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear glue, and you'll want that metal tip too. You're going to need magnets, and I'm using the basic gray, and these are the large ones, and we're only going to need 4 out of a pack. Score tape. So on the pre-cutting guide, you're going to need to seam your base with a 1/4 inch, and I used 1/4 inch score tape because it makes it so easy. And here is one of my pieces, as you can see, and you just lay it along one side. So that's the only place that I use the 1/4 inch score tape. The rest I'm just going to use glue for that. Of course, you're going to download the pre-cutting guide. You'll go ahead and you'll cut and you'll score your pieces as stated in that. So that will give you all your pre-cuts and get you ready for each section when we start putting things together. And we will review those. So in case that you are confused on something, don't worry. We'll do it together in the video. You'll want a scoreboard. You'll want your scoring bone folder, your little tool. You'll want a paper cutter. You're going to want your ruler. And you'll want a pencil with an eraser. Craft knife is always handy, and of course some scissors. Let's get started in putting this together. We're ready to assemble the base and decorating everything, and you'll want your scoring board out if you haven't already scored, and I'm going to review these, so you might want to review as we go here. So the first thing on our pre-cutting guide was to cut two pieces that were 8 1/4 by 12 inches, and we just labeled those base. And it also said for seaming, you'll place the 1/4 inch score tape along one of the short sides. And it doesn't matter if you put it over here or whatever. We're just going to seam these two together. And we're going to do that right now, and then we'll score it together. Now, I like to use something with a flat edge. It's easier for me. So we're going to put our paper, and I recommend you do this too, to get it on straight so your folio ends up straight. But what we're going to do is just lay one piece so it hits our paper bar, the guide here. Make sure it's straight. And we're going to release that piece of score tape. Next, we're going to take our other sheet, and we are 12 inches wide on this, and we're going to overlap it because our seam allowance is only 1/4 inch. And we're going to burnish. And that's it. Let me get my scoring board. Very simple. Now, one thing I want to point out is it does not matter if you're scoring the 0 starts here or here. You can always turn it around, and I will get us situated for that. So we're going to lay this so we are approximately 23.5 inches long. Our first score is at 2.5. Then we had 4 inches. We had 10 1/4. And then we had 11 5/8. Then what it said to do is to rotate our paper around so we're at the opposite end now so we can score over here. We wanted 5 1/4 inches and 5 7/8. And that's all there was to scoring the base and getting it together. We also had a couple other pre-cuts for our base. One was 3 1/4 inch by 4.5, and we just called this our base matting. There's no scoring. And we had a 4 1/8 by 5 1/8 base large matting. Okay, we are ready to get this going. So here is our score lines. All we're going to do, and I'm going to start over here. It's all going to go the same way. So we're just going to fold on those score lines. And when you're folding on those score lines, when you fold over your paper, make sure they match with the sides of your paper. And that's going to make this much easier for you. Make sure it comes out straight. So just in case you got your scoring a little bit different, you know, it didn't get quite even. Okay, so we're going to do that again. And I'm going to match up, make sure that this is straight with the edges over there. And that's all there is to this. We're just going to keep going here. I'm going to keep, and then I'm going to come around this way. Make sure I match up. Now that we have it all folded, what we're going to do is start labeling our pieces. So we're going to start over here, okay, and the peaks are all down at this point. You're going to have a 2.5 inch little flap. And what we're going to do on the inside is we're first going to write P4. That's panel 4 for the inside. Now let's just draw 2 circles. That lets us know this is our magnets page. Magnet panel. Okay? Now what I want you to do is flip it over, and we're going to write front closure. So we know that this is going to be in the front. Okay. Now right here, you're going to see where you have a nice spacing, a score line here and here. Right on the inside, I want you to put inside spine. Okay. Let's move on over here to the far left, and we're still looking at the inside. We're going to put P1. P1 is just panel 1. It's just so we don't have to keep writing panel. Then you're going to see 2 little score lines. We're just going to put in the inside there, inside spine. Okay, it's our little spine. This is P2. Then you're going to have 2 score lines here, and we're going to put inside spine. Right here is P3. So panel 1, we have our little score lines in between, inside spine, P2, inside spine, P3, inside spine, P4. Okay? Now what I would like you to do is turn this over. So you're going to see front closure right here. We're going to put outside spine right here, in between those. Right here, we're going to put back of folio. Here, we're going to put outside spine. And here, we're going to put front of folio. Here, in between those little score lines, we're going to write outside spine. Those 2 little score lines in between. This is going to be called our outside panel. All right, so now let's turn it all over. Fold this in. Fold this in. And this comes over. So now you're looking at the front of the folio, the front closure, the outside spine, the back, outside spine, and this piece folds in. So there's our outside panel and then inside. And this way, because folios, because they fold in certain ways, we're not going to get turned around. And it just makes it easier for when I'm teaching you so that everyone understands where we're at. Especially if you take a break, you turn off your video, you come back, and you're confused. You'll be able to pick up and see where exactly we are. Okay, first things first. We're going to grab a couple actually 4 magnets here. So 2 plus, 2 minuses. Now open this up. We're looking at panel 4. We did the 2 little circles. Now those circles you don't have to put exactly these magnets. It was just to show you, oh, there's something different about this in case that you're doing this without me. So here's a score line right here, and here's the edge. You're going to come up maybe about 1.25 inches or so, and you're going to place that centered side to side right in the middle there. And we're going to do the same over here. Doesn't matter if you're working with a plus or a minus. I think that's a minus. And we're going to place one up here. Okay? Let's put the mates on top. Now I'm going to show you first what we're going to do before we do it, so that you can get your magnets aligned where they need to be. So if we were to pull this up, and you know that it comes over like this, what you're going to do is, and you're going to keep that little thing tucked in. You see this corner right here? This you're going to pull right into the crease over here. Okay? And down here, this one goes into that crease. And then what's going to happen, it's going to put you perfect. So I'm going to show you how I do it. And it might be helpful for you too. So I'm going to remove, these are on top of the other ones. These are the mates. I'm going to remove that. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to push this all the way over. I'm going to line myself up like I just showed you. First I'm going to start up here, make sure the tops are matching. And I'll just press a little there. Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down And I'm going to match that in there to the corner. And then this should match with the bottom. So now we've set our base to where we can close it up if needed, set it aside, and from that. Okay, let's open this up carefully because the magnets are pretty darn strong. Once we get our paper on there, it'll be okay. There we go. So first thing that we're going to do is work on our front folio to get the paper down. Now one thing you can do is you can push back on that spine to flatten this out, and you can also push out on this little thing here so that you have something flat to work with. Let's find our paper for this. In your paper pack you will find this print. On the back it's the snow. First thing that we want to do is trim off this trim piece. I'm going to bring out my paper cutter here. I'm going to move the folio out of the way. And we'll be doing our first cuts together so you can get used to how I teach. So let's get the trim piece off. And we will not be using this. If you'd like to keep it for yourself, go ahead. I'm just going to put that in the garbage. Okay, one thing if you are new to my tutorials, I do want to tell you is that when we make cuts, I always will tell you to start this way and measure over this way. Okay? Now, sometimes I will have you turn the paper sideways, but we're still going to start at a point over here and measure over this way. And that keeps us consistent. So I'm not telling you to measure down, over, up, and get all confused. So that's what you can expect from me. We start here and over. Next thing I want to tell you really quick is that any leftover pieces will go into a scrap pile. And I call the scrap pile our reserve pile because we're reserving those pieces to use in the folio, and I hate wasting paper. So, we have our paper like this. We are going to turn it sideways. And our first cut is we're going to start here and we're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. So my blade is right here and I'm measuring over 8 inches and I'm going to cut. This piece I'm going to put in my reserves, my scrap pile. Okay, so anything that falls off the edge of your thing, that will go in the scrap pile unless I tell you to hang on to it. So now this is what you have. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to measure over 6 inches and we're going to cut that right in half. And we're going to keep both pieces. One's for the front and one's for the back. So 6 inches, here's 6, measuring over and cutting. So we have these. Okay, we are going to need this long piece. So bring that back out of your reserves and we're just going to turn it to where we're looking at it. It's 12 inches across. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. 8 inches and cut. So this is what you have. We're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 2 3/8 inch and cut. So 2 3/8. Okay, this is the piece we want. And as far as this piece, we may be able to use that, and I think we will. So hang on to this for a moment. We're just going to stick that off to the side. Let's just take care of what we got so far so nobody is confused. So right now, what you have in your reserve scrap pile is this piece. Okay? Alright, so I had you flatten this out. Here's the outside spine. We pushed it over. And as far as this one, you can actually push that behind. So all you're looking at is the front. And that's what it looks like on the inside. That way, it is easier for us to get our panel and see what we're doing. And all we want to do is we're going to apply glue to the back of this, and we're going to center it on that front panel. So you will have a white border all the way around. I hope that makes sense. Make sure you get the edges. That's my biggest pet peeve, is when edges don't get done. I usually use score tape, and this time I'm just going to use my glue and give it a go. I'm just going to make sure I get those edges. And the reason why is because, especially on the outside cover, if you don't get those edges really good, and you, after time, it starts to lift, or you have something there. So, okay, so I'm going to center this side to side as best I can, top and bottom. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to burnish. Don't skip this part. You definitely want to burnish to get that glue spread around and to the edges. And then you can wipe up any glue. Okay. Next thing is, over here, we're just going to fold that in. We have a short piece here, and that should fit top and bottom and give you a white border side to side once you center it in there. And what I like to do is match it up with the top and the bottom of this panel, so it all looks good. Okay, we'll get that on there. That'll just give you a little bit there. If you accidentally get it on crooked, it's not the end of the world. Chances are, by the time we're done, you're not even going to be able to tell. Just make sure I get that glue wiped up. Okay, so now what you can do is turn it over, and now what you have is the back of the folio. Okay, so see right over here where it says outside spine, you see right here where your crease is, you can just fold that back behind. This over here, you can fold that completely back behind, so all you have is the back of the folio. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to apply glue to this. We're going to center it in there to give us a white border, and we're going to glue that down now. And you're not going to hurt anything by flattening it out, because it will take back its form when we're done getting the inside guts to this all done. Okay, so now that what we're going to do is we will just kind of put this back to where it's supposed to be. We're going to work on the spine over here. And remember that little piece I told you to hold on to? Well, we're going to cut that down. So here's my closure right here. This is already 8 inches tall. What we're going to do is measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut. So 1 3/8. I have a glare, so it's kind of bugging me. Alright, this piece, even though it seems insignificant, put this in your scrap pile, your reserves. Alright, so everyone should have, should kind of understand how I do my teaching. I will start this off very slow so that everyone has an opportunity, and then once we've made pockets, whatever, we can go a little faster. So if this seems a little slow to you because you've been following me for years, you should know that I do kind of pick up the pace a little bit, not too much. Anyway, here is our closure right here, our closure. We're going to get on this spine. This one is slightly wider than this one. So this just gets glued down. So now I'm going to open this all up. So let's get this glued down. Oh, by the way, whoops. We want the snow side up. So we're going to put glue on this side. Almost forgot. When I was making that one with the craft cardstock, I almost just left it blue. So if you'd rather have it blue, you can. But I wanted something a little different. So there's my 2 score lines, and I'm just going to place that in there. As far as this side, we're going to wait because we're going to be using scrap for that. Next thing that we want is our 4 1/8 by 5 1/8 inch large matting. In your paper pack, you will have another one of these. So we're going to take off that trim piece first. So let's do that. I got the trim piece off. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to measure over 4 inches and cut. This is what it looks like after that cut. This larger piece will go into our reserves. So we are 4 inches by 12 right now. We'll just turn it this way. We'll measure over 5 inches and cut. So this is the piece that we want. What we're going to do is apply glue to this side, and we're going to mount it on this white large matting. And I'm going to bring this up. This is the one you want. And this, we'll just glue it down, and we're going to center it in there, and that will give us a white border. So the next piece that we want is our 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 inch base matting. And we'll just stick that off to the side. In your paper pack, you will find the cut-aparts, the little card page. Let's take off that trim piece. And I'm going to bring this on over here. So I took off the trim piece, and the next thing I would like us to do is cut here and here. So we're going to detach. Put that in our reserves. We'll put this one in front of us, this one in our reserves. Now be very careful because it's all one piece. So this is what we're first going to do. Let's cut this part, and then we'll cut the second together. I'm going to get that up there. Okay. This we'll put in our reserves. And so right here, what you're going to want to do is measure over 3 inches and cut. So 3 inches. And we'll put that in our reserves. Let's check this on our matting. It looks like we're going to have to cut off a little bit down here. So instead of 4 1/2, it should be 4 1/4. So measure over 4 1/4 inches and cut that matting down. That is a typo on my notes. So now if you were to place this right in the center, it will fit nicely. So now this is actually 4 1/4. Just so you know. Okay. And we'll center that as best we can and burnish. Alright, now we're going to apply glue to this piece, and we're going to glue it down to our other panel. And try to center that as best you can. Looks good. Alright, let's grab the front of our folio. Here is our closure right on here. What we're going to do is actually just place it down there. And I'm just going to put my hand inside the folio and hold it. And I'm going to take a look. Does that look even side to side to me? Okay. So I want to try and center this side to side here. And top and bottom. And to me that looks close enough. So what I'm going to do is use my pencil at this point. And I'm just going to kind of put a pencil mark here. And that looks pretty even. And I'm just going to lightly draw around this. And the reason why I'm doing this, and you don't have to, but I'm doing it, is, and you can barely see that lines, that is where the glue goes. If you have some leftover scrap white cardstock, or if you're using craft that, grab a piece, because what you're going to want to do is just slide that right on in there. Okay, right underneath that lip until it hits your magnet. And that's going to help keep the glue from seeping over. So right by those lines I just did, that tells me where the glue needs to go. Okay. Definitely want to get right along that line there. And I actually need a little bit longer piece, I can see. So before you place it, let's take a look. What we're going to do is gently place it where it needs to be. I think it's right about there. And we're going to look again before we finalize this. Scoot it over. Okay, so mine is starting to grab. I'm just going to open this up now and make sure that it's even. Okay. Because the reason why I wanted to put the glue down and keep it shut is just to double check that it's going on straight. Just in case you got your paper on a little crooked. So now we'll just burnish. And that was sewed and glued while we were gently pressing, didn't get on our other paper. So let's see. Got that down. We'll check to make sure we don't have glue seeping out. We'll close it up. And there it is. And I think that looks totally cute. All right, we're going to finish up here because we did cut into that paper. In your reserves, you will find this print. We just cut it. This is the big one. And right now, where'd my ruler go? There it is. Right now, we know that we're going to be needing 8 inches tall. And I believe this is 8 inches right here. And it is. And of course, we are, what, 12 inches this way. Measure over 1 1/4 inches and cut. So this is what we should have. If you were to lay this down, it should fit and give you a little white border. So I'm going to open this all up. I'm just going to lay it out just like this, flat, so it's easier for me. Flatten that out. And then I can also see my paper. All right. Our outside has been decorated. We put this all together. We are now going to move on to outside panel. We are now on to the outside panel, and we had one pre-cut, and that was a 4x6 outside panel pocket. And what we first did was we laid this on our scoring board so that we were 4 inches across, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it, so now we're at 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. Alrighty. We're just going to set this off to the side for a moment. In your paper pack, you will find this beautiful snowman print. And on the back, it looks like this. Let's take off that trim piece. So now that I have my trim piece off, I'm going to turn this sideways. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. And this is what you should have, 8 inches by 12 inches. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. And here is our piece. So all we need to do on this is, here's our outside panel, and here's that little outside spine of that. We're just going to push that over so we don't see the other part, and all we're looking at is our outside panel. If you were to lay this down and center it, it will give you a white border all the way around. And we're going to glue this down. I hope you're enjoying the tutorials so far. I try to teach it as easy as I can so everyone understands what's happening, what's going on. And I try to give you some tips along the way. Speaking of tips, I will be giving you a tip on our pre-cut here in just a moment. Alright, we have that down. Let's grab our pre-cut, and that's our 4x6 panel pocket. If you notice, we have score lines here, and one going across the bottom. In the corner, it creates a little square. And what we're going to do is we're going to clip up to that score line and over to release that square. And we'll do the same over here. So this is the way on your pockets we'll be doing them. There's other ways to do pockets, but for this, I just did it like this. Now, once you have that, we're going to turn it over and we're just going to fold back on all those score lines. Okay, if you were to pull in your sides and pull up the bottom, it should go flush with you. And here's the tip. If it is not, and it's catching on one of these lower bottoms here, what you can do is just trim it a little bit more on the sides and then up. If you don't, sometimes if it's too long, you didn't quite get it where it needed to be, and you pull this up, it will push this out a little bit. So if you've ever done a pocket before and like this, and you found that it's no longer rectangle straight and it's pushing out, chances are is that that little lip down here caught and you're struggling to get that up and over. So that is my little tip. So what you're going to want to do is you can pull in the inside right here, pull that into the inside, and down at the bottom just put a little glue down in the corner there. Just like that. And with the insides in, you just pull that up. And that will get you where you need to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this pocket on. So before I place glue, or you do, once we do put the glue, we're going to bring it all the way to the bottom of our decorative paper, match it up side to side, and then we're going to place it. So usually I like to use score tape, but we're going to just do glue. And remember, the opening is right here. So here's the bottom, and the bottom just goes down here. All right, we're going to get into our paper pack. And I'm going to find our paper for us. In your paper pack, you will find this design. And on the back, it is the brown. Let's take off that trim piece. I have the bottom trim piece off. We are going to turn it sideways, so now the lines in the paper are like this. We're going to measure over 3 3/8 inch and cut. After making that cut, this is what you'll have. We'll put this in our reserves. And now what we're going to do is we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. This is our final piece. We're going to apply glue, and we are going to bring this all the way to the bottom of our pocket, and we're going to glue that down, and that will give us a nice white lip there. In your paper pack, in the very back, I believe it is, you will have a sticker sheet. And where is it? Right here, the clock. We're not going to back this. What we're going to do is just apply glue. Even though it has the sticky on it, I like to always add a little glue to it, just in case that adhesive isn't real good at staying over time. And we're just going to stick that right in the middle. All right, our outside panel is complete. We're now going to move on to P1, panel 1. And we have some pre-cuts for that. Let's review our panel 1, P1 pre-cuts. So we had our first one, and what was a 5 by 5/8 by 8 inch, and we labeled that fold out. All we did on that is lay this so we were 5 5/8 across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Next, what we had was a 4 inch by 5 3/4 inch, and we called that P1 FO pocket, and FO is fold out. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We turned this, so now we are 5 3/4 inch across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch and 5 1/4 inches. It's our FO pocket, fold out pocket. And then we had one more, and we called it a P1 FO mat. It's 4 by 5 1/4. And there's no scoring on that. So let's begin. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. Let's take off that trim piece. So now that I have the trim piece off, I am just going, it isn't really going to matter which way we go with this. So if you look at it like this, you can turn it sideways, and you'll see that it looks sideways. We're going to measure over 8 inches and cut. So that is what you should have. We're just going to flip this back over. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. And here is our base decorative sheet. Now what we want to get after is the 5 5/8 by 8 inch fold out. And we're going to fold on those score lines. There's 1 and there's 2 here for us. And what that is, if you are new and to making mini albums, folios, or anything like this, the reason why we have 2 score lines right like that is because when you're done folding on them and you push it in, push it back, what it's going to create is a spacing for us, just like that. So that we have space in there if we wanted to put a pocket, if we want, which we will be, or whatever. So our hinge is going to be off, and that's what this is called, a hinge. It's going to be off to the left-hand side. Now you see you have an inner score line and an outer one. On the outer one, I want you to just pinch on that and crease. So you'll still be able to see your other score line there. This just makes it easier to attach. Again, it's off to the left, and we're just going to place that right on over it. So you have that hooked back behind. So this is 8 inches tall, which is the same as your decorated paper. And this is what we're going to be seeing is the dark blue. So you'll put it right on over like that. Make sure you are straight. Now once you have it in place, I want you to pinch that and hold on to it and flip it over, just like that. And I should move this out of the side, but for now I'm just going to slide something unrelated underneath so you can see what I'm doing here, just so you can see. So we have that. We're going to hold our hand down to keep it from sliding around this thing. We'll fold that back, and then we're going to add some glue to this little hinge. And then we're going to fold it over, and we're going to use our tool to smooth it out and burnish it. Now immediately after you do that, what I want you to do is to open this up and wipe up any glue that may have seeped in there, because if you leave it there and you close it, it's going to glue you shut. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to see our other score line. Now we can push back on that, crease and push in, and it should be flat. So there's what we look like. Okay, we can now glue this down, and all we're going to do is use glue here. Get this down, and it goes over here. Now what we're going to want to do is center it in there. Now the most important thing I can tell you is right over here, you see where you have your inside spine and there's that score line. I want you to make sure that you are at least away from that about 1/8 of an inch. Okay? And I am. Because if you get it on your score line there, it's going to mess you up. It's going to catch, and that's not what you want. Sticker sheet. What we're going to do is grab Winter Days. And we'll just add a little bit of glue to that. And we'll just stick it right here. And we'll clean up any glue that wants to squirt out. Okay, I'm going to move my folio down, and we're going to work on this panel. In your reserves, you will have this sheet. It is it's 8 inches by 7 inches. Our first cut is we're going to measure over 4 3/4 inch and cut. Again, you should be 8 inches. When you're looking at it, 8 inches tall already, and we're just measuring over this way, 4 3/4 inch, and we're going to cut. Okay, we do need to cut the length down now to fit in our fold out. So we're going to turn this. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. So now we have a 4 3/4 by 7 3/4 piece. Let's come on over here, and we're just going to lay this down, and we're going to center it. And when you center it in there, you should have approximately almost 1/8 of an inch in between that outside score line here and your paper. And that should still give you a nice white border. So we're going to get this down. And again, this is our fold out, and it's opening up. And we'll center that top and bottom as best we can. And we'll burnish that down. The next piece, we want our pre-cut. It's a 4 by 5 3/4 inch FO pocket. And you will see where the square is. And we're going to do this the same way we did before. We'll cut up and over. And we're going to turn it over, and we are going to fold on those score lines. And we're going to assemble this the same way we did on our other pocket. So first we fold in the sides. We just put a little dot here and down here, and then we fold up. Now let's add our glue. And the opening, of course, is here. Here's the bottom. The bottom comes all the way to the bottom of your decorative paper. Now, you may be able to see some of your decorative paper onto the sides, and that's perfectly fine. Just wipe up any glue that you see. In your reserves, you will have this. On the back, it looks like this. Let's put this on our paper cutter, and we're going to cut to divide. We want this panel. Now we're going to do a couple cuts here. And I'm going to put this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing here. Sometimes we need to cut things down to fit right. And this is one of those cases. So what I want you to do is put this on your paper cutter. And what you're going to do, why don't you grab your pencil really quick. But you see where the bottom of the heart is? Just right underneath the heart, I want you to put a little pencil line. That will help. And I put that, I'm not sure if you can see that little pencil line there. And the first thing I'm going to do is line this up on my paper cutter, and I'm going to cut. Make sure that this is not straight, this paper. I can tell you that right now. Okay, so now we have that off. So now that we do have that off, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it this way. We're going to measure over 3 3/8 inch and cut. Okay. Now what we're going to do is turn it upside down. We'll measure over 4 3/4 inch and cut. These little scraps, we'll just put these in our reserves. I'm going to grab my folio out. After making those cuts, you should be able to place this down on your pocket, and it will give you that nice white lip. Let's add our glue. Inside is done on our fold out. Let's fold that over. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this print on the back. It is this. The first thing that I would like you to do, and we're looking at it where the snowman is the right way, we're going to measure over 4 3/4 inch and cut. We will turn that, we'll measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. And this is what you should have. If you place this on top of your fold out now, and that will give you a nice white border all the way around if you center it. And we're going to glue this down. All right, the next thing that we have is our 4 by 5 1/4 inch FO mat. And I'm going to move this off to the side here. We're going to need a couple pieces off our sticker sheet. And what I'd like you to do is grab some scratch white cardstock. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to stick this down to some white cardstock. Leave yourself some room because we're going to cut out and around and leave a white border. And we're also going to do Baby, It's Cold Outside. Okay, and this is easy because I can just kind of stick it down and use the edges of my cardstock so I don't have to be cutting everything. So we're going to get this ready to go. So I'm just going to divide these up. Next, we want this cute little snowman. Definitely need him. I'm going to stick him down. It's easier when I'm fussy cutting, to have littler pieces. And I'll put this back in my reserves. Okay. So what I'm going to do on these pieces is I'm going to cut out and around my images, leaving a little bit of a white border on each one of these. And I will show you what mine looks like as soon as I'm done. I have all my pieces cut out. And you can see a little bit of a white border there and around there. Now, there's 3 reasons why I do this sometimes. Number 1, to stiffen this up, which is one of the reasons why we are doing it this time. And also, another reason is it sharpens up the image and looks really good. And also, the 3rd reason why is because when you back it with a solid colored cardstock, it doesn't get lost in the images behind. It will stick it out for you more. So we have those. Let's start with this one. Whoops. The Gift and Baby, It's Cold Outside. So all we're going to do is place some glue, and I'll show you where. Just maybe a little right here. Just a little bit right there. We're going to take It's Baby, It's Cold Outside, and we're going to overlap. Just like that. And we're going to let that dry. We're going to stick the snowman off to the side. And now we're going to get our decorative paper for this. In your paper pack, you will have this print. On the back, it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. Okay, so I got my trim piece off. We're going to turn this sideways. We're going to measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. This is what you should have. We're going to measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut. All right, if you were to place glue on this side and place it down, you should be able to center that and give yourself a nice white border. And that's what we're going to do. All right, let's grab our folio, because we're just about done with this page. Now, the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to place glue underneath, just a line under here and a line across the bottom. So I'm going to flip this over, because if I put the glue here while I'm looking at it backwards, when you do it, the glue will end up over here. And what we're doing is creating a tuck so you can get more picture mats in on this page other than just placing a photo here. So we're going to come down maybe about a 1/2 inch from the top. Try to center that side to side, and we will burnish. Here's the easy part. We have our 2 pieces here. And we want to make it so this is a tuck. So we're going to turn this over, and we're going to add some glue right down here. And we're just going to go right along here. We'll flip it back. And what this is where you put the glue up here, you want to make sure it hits over here. And you're just going to bring this up just a little bit from the bottom. It won't go over the side. And that means that when you place this down, you can still get a photograph tucked in there if you'd like. And then that's what it would look like, matted back behind a photograph. This photograph, and I always use it, it's a great size because it's a good size one. This is about 3 1/2 inch wide by about 4 5/8 this way. So you can even get a slightly larger. And even if you have a 4 by 6, you can always just stick it right over the matting too, if you wanted. and whatever. But as you can see, you can still get back behind there. Now for this little guy, when we apply glue, we want to leave it so there's no glue touching our mat. And he's just going to go right over here, so I know that right under his glove will be okay. This is the bottom of him. And to make sure, I'm just going to slide something right on in there over that picture mat. And I'll bring him over and press. And he's down. So now, as you can see, you can get a photo in there and it'll slide back behind. All right, panel 1 is complete. We are now on to panel 2. We're on panel 2. Let's go over our pre-cuts. So you would have cut 2 pieces that are 6 5/8 by 8 inches. We call these a WF fold out. WF stands for waterfall. So this is our waterfall fold out. Okay, on each one of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board. So we were 6 5/8 inch across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch on each one of these. The last pre-cut were 10 pieces, and they were 4 1/2 by 5 inches. And we only labeled the first one, and then I said to just stack the rest underneath and not write on them. But this is our waterfall for panel 2, P2. What we did was we laid each one of these on our scoring board, so we were 4 1/2 inches across, and we scored each one at a 1/2 inch. We're going to start off with our WF fold outs, and all we're going to do is fold on those score lines. And what we're going to have is our hinge off to the right on one and a hinge off to the left. So I'm going to label this one so you do not get turned around or confused. Okay, let's grab our folio. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off placing these directly on the folio rather than attaching them to our page. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that this gets right up next to where we fold. Now there's 2 score lines, one here and one here. The one that you're going to want is this one on the inside. Okay? And we're going to start off with the one with the hinge to the left. Now I'm going to tell you what we're going to do before we do it. I find that sometimes that is a lot easier for you to wrap your mind around what we're doing. So your hinge is over here. You have an outside score line and an inside. On that, we're just going to fold and crease. Okay? What we're going to end up doing is placing glue just on that outside, that 1/2 inch little hinge there. And there's our score line here and here. Then what we're going to do, once we have glue, is we're going to fold that back behind. And you see this outer score line here? Not this one, but this one. We're going to lift this up and we're going to place this. And we're using glue for this. And we're going to center that top and bottom so it has the same amount, probably about 1/8 or so. And we're going to push it right up next to, when we hold this up, it gets butted right up next to this. And you can hold this kind of like a stair if you'd like. And that way, it gets settled in where it needs to be. Okay? So, okay, let's do this. And I think once I do this, you'll understand once we get this all put together, and then you'll say, oh, okay, I get it. So here is that outside score line. We're leaving it alone except to push that all the way back behind. I'm first going to take a look here and try to get this center, top, and bottom. Now I'm going to push this up, and I'm going to push my piece back against as best I can. And you should still be straight going across. Once you do that, now you can open that up and burnish. We're going to do the same thing. So it's kind of hard with our seam going here, but your score line is just right there. And then there's one over here. So this is the one we want. Right there. We're going to do the same thing with folding, and you have the, if your hinge is over here, you have the score line right there. So make sure that that's creased on. It will help you. And we'll get our glue down on this little hinge. Okay, I'll pinch. And here's the thing, before you do anything, okay, now that you have this one on, you want to be able to line up, and it's not that easy when it's like that. You can just push this back against that other one to move it over some for you. And then you can line up your paper with that fold out, because that's the idea. And I'm going to have to be a left-handed person to do this. So I think I got this fairly straight, pushed up against. Just pulling this up. I think that's pretty good. And now I'm going to burnish. And I can fold this out of the way. So now you can just fold back on those other score lines, and you should be sitting fairly even in there. And you should be able to just fold this right on up and latch. And what we did was, the reason why we butted it up like that is to get it back up against this. So that's the madness behind my reasoning there. Okay, let's open up these P2 fold out, and we're looking just at the P2, panel 2 in the back. In your paper pack, you will have another one of these. On the back, it's the music notes. Let's take off that trim piece. Okay, so I got the trim piece off. We're going to turn it this way. So Valentine's, or not Valentine's, excuse me, for the love of winter is up over there. Measure over 8 inches and cut. Okay, now that we cut that off, we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. Flip this over. Now, look on your fold outs here. You have a score line here, and you have an inner score line here, and an inner score line over there. If you were just to lay this down, this should place right centered in between, leaving you room in between those inner score lines. All we need to do with this is glue it down. And when we glue it down, we're going to center it up, or we're going to match it up with our fold outs, the little hinges there, as best we can. So. I think that's on fairly straight. A little off, but it works. There we go. I hope I didn't just put that upside down, but nope, the writing is correct. So I can still read some writing. It's not upside down in the background, so make sure that this is down in the left-hand corner there. Okay, take this back out of your reserves, and what you're going to want to do is we're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. So after you cut, it took a little bit off there. We'll just turn it sideways now, and we're going to measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. And we will apply glue And we will set this and center it in there side to side, leaving ourselves, I think we're going to end up between about, I think we're going to be about 1/8 of an inch away from that outside score line about. And it'll still give you a little bit of white over there. And we will, of course, center this top and bottom so it looks good. All right, so that's what we have so far. Now we still have to do this. We're reaching into our second paper pack right now, and we're going to go ahead and take off that trim piece. And this is the one that we want out of it. Once you've done that, let's turn this upside down. We're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. So this is what you should have. Now we'll turn it this way. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. All right, again, we are looking at our fold out here. We're going to apply glue to this, and we're going to do the same thing, making sure that we are about 1/8 or so, 1/16 to 1/8 away from that outside score line. And we'll center it in there. And you'll want to try to get this the same as what you have over here. Probably make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to set this off to the side really quick. And what we have are our 10 pieces that are 4.5 by 5, and they are a waterfall. And what we're going to do is fold on all those score lines. Once we have these all folded on, we're going to make 2 piles of these, 5 each. There's 4. Here's 5. And then these will be in a different pile. Okay, we have our 2 piles. We can now grab our folio back here. So 5 are going to be for this page, and 5 are going to be for this page. But we do need to measure up from the bottom with our ruler and pencil to mark our starting point. And here's my pencil. So what you're going to want to do, we'll start over here, is take your ruler, and from your decorative paper, not the white, measure up 5 inches, and you're going to make a pencil mark. Okay? It will actually, if you cut yours the same as me, it will actually fall on the second line down right here. And I believe this is going to do the same, but let's see. 5 inches up. Nope, it is not going to fall the same because of the way the paper was cut. So we'll just make our pencil mark there. All right, this is pretty darn easy. Now the one that you wrote on, just set that to the bottom of your first stack, okay? Because we'll cover that with paper. Okay, here is the waterfall. And the peak is up towards you. What you're going to do is you're going to put glue on this, and we'll do this together, but I want to show you. Then you're going to pull it back. You're going to center it on in between the sides of this, and you're going to bring it up to that pencil line. And you're going to place it. So let's do it. Here's our glue. Fold it back. Find the pencil line. Try to center that side to side and get it straight. If you need to look at the sides of your paper to get that straight, do so. But you definitely want to get it, the first one on pretty straight. If you don't get it on straight, it's not the end of the world because chances are nobody's going to notice it. So we're just burnishing that down. So now this is easy. Here is my peak right here. What we're going to do is put glue on this. Now I'm going to flip it so it looks like this. The glue is underneath, and I'm going to line it up side to side. Okay, and it will fit right up next to it. And once you have that there, we're going to burnish and let that glue sit. Then we're going to pull this down. It should match up pretty darn even with your sides there and your other one. We're going to do that again. So here's my peak. I've got glue all over me. Peak is up at me. Put the glue on the little hinge. Now I'm going to turn it. Glue is down. And I'm just going to butt that right on up and line it up with the sides of those and burnish. Okay. Now for the second waterfall, we do the same exact thing. So you'll be pretty much a pro at this by the time we reach this last one. Now I usually like to use score tape for this, but I'm using the glue because you can still maneuver around. Score tape is not forgiving, and I do like the score tape, that's for sure. Better than glue. So that's our last one. That's number 5. Okay, we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same exact thing. So there's nothing new about this. We're going to set our first one on the line and hold that back, find our pencil line, side to side, make sure it's even. I don't want to get my head in the video. I'm still in my pajamas, guys. Crafting in my pajamas. That's so unprofessional, but I am. I did brush my hair a bit, but have you ever had one of those days you just, pajama day, it's cold, it's wet outside. Okay, peak was up, and this is just the same. Just butt it up right next to the other one, and then you'll burnish. So we're going to continue on until these are all done. And there we have it. All right, in your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. So we're going to turn it so the lines are like this. We're going to measure over 3 7/8 inch, and we're going to cut. So this is what you should have. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut, and then we'll do it again. We'll measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. So that'll give us 2 pieces. So we're going to apply glue, and we are going to center it on that first one there. And we'll do the same right over here on that top one. Now sometimes because the white, I don't know if it tricks your eyes or not, it tricks mine all the time. So all I'm going to do right now is grab something out of my reserves. I'm going to slide it back underneath this so I can see what I'm doing. And it's just easier to see the edges. Okay, time to get this one down. Okay, so because we conserve paper in here, what we're going to do is a series of 1/2 inch cuts. So the first thing I would like us to do is grab this piece out of your reserves. What we're going to do is we're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. Okay, so now that we have it like that, we're going to turn it so all the boards are going this way, and I've got to wash my hands. But what we're going to do is we're going to measure over 1/2 inch and cut. We'll measure over 1/2 inch and cut, and we're going to keep doing that until there's no more paper. And this is about 4¼ inches. So you should be able to get 8 pieces, and that's what we need. So let's do that really quick. Okay, I have my 8 pieces. And the only thing that was left over after that was just a skinny little piece. Put that in the reserves. So how I would like us to do that is we are going to, and I need my little blue paper here, is I'm going to slide it under. We are going to flip up this one. We're going to skip one. So we're on the 3rd one down. And we're going to glue this down. And we're going to just skip every other one. So this goes here. Center that side to side as best you can. Now while you have that down, what you can do, oh my thing fell, is we're going to make this kind of the same. So up here you have this one down, we'll just put one up here. So just slide that while it's up. Okay, so what we have so far is this. So we'll just flip that up, we'll skip one, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to glue one here and one up here. So we're skipping one again. So that's what it's going to look like. So let's do that. Okay, so that's all we want over here. We're going to do the same exact thing over here. Here's this one, we skip one, and this one's going to go right here. So flip that and that. So one here and one here. Oops, I did not want to get glue on this because I may need that. Okay, so this one up, skip one, and then here and here. So that is what we have so far. In your reserves, you will find this piece. And this piece is 4 inches wide by about 7 inches tall. Okay, that's the one you want, so 4 by 7. We're going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. So that is what you should have, so that we are 4 7/8 inch tall and 4 inches wide. We're going to do what we did before. We're going to measure over 1/2 inch and cut, and keep cutting 1/2 inch strips until there's no more. I've got all mine. I was able to get 8, and what we're going to do is just place them down. One here on all these empty places, on both of these. So let's do that. And that's fairly explanatory. So I don't need to bore you with filming this whole entire process. So I am continuing on. The next, I want to tell you, I'm still continuing on. So you'll use 4 pieces over here, 4 pieces over here. Now under here we do something different, just so you know. I have mine all down. So that's what it should look like. We'll flip these all up. And we do need 2 more. And let me find a piece of scrap that we can do that with. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. Okay? We're going to make use, see how it's kind of cut and it's like left a little bit over there? I'd like you to cut right on that line and divide that off of that. And I will show you what I'm talking about. So all I cut was that. Okay, on this one, we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 5 inches and cut. So we have these, and these are just going down. Even though they're going the other way, it's not a big deal. It still has the same prints as right there. And we're just going to cover that up, bring it side to side. Do that on this side too. Okay, now I want to get for right down here, and we need the bubble paper. There are not bubble. Okay, I need another cup of coffee. We need the snow paper. In your reserves, you will have this print. It is large. It is about 8 inches wide by about 10 3/4 tall. We're going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over a 1/2 inch and cut. We'll measure over a 1/2 inch and cut. Now that you have 2 strips, what we're going to do is measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. All right, waterfalls are done. That looks good. And we will just close this up. We'll work on this side here. In your paper pack, your first paper pack, you will have one of these. On the back, it looks like this. Let's take off that trim piece. So I got the trim piece off, and we're going to look at where the grain's going this way, or you can turn it over and look at it like this. So we will turn it. The trees are sideways. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. So that is what you should have. We're going to make 2 cuts on this because we have this fold out and that fold out. We're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 5 5/8 inch and cut. Okay, so here's that. We're going to apply glue and glue that down. We'll close that. We'll apply glue and we'll glue that down just like that. And center it on there, on your panel there. So let's do that really quick. Now, one thing about your waterfall inside, it will settle down after a time, so it's not so pokey-uppy, you know? Pokey-uppy, I don't even think that's a word. Well, it's our word now. Pokey-uppy. I don't know where that came from. It's okay, we can make up our own crafting language. Oh, I think I want my other cup of coffee now. So I do need to wash my hands, and I think I'm going to fix me a cup. I'm starting to speak weird things, pokey-uppy. Okay, let's fold this one out, and we're going to work on this one first, and this one is super simple because we do not need to back this with anything. You see hot cocoa and warm hugs? We're just going to stick that right down here in the center. I think that's center. That's done. We'll fold this over. And this is easy. We're not going to back this. It does not need it. These are not tucks. I'm grabbing this off. Now when you place this particular one, see how your little flower and your leaves and stuff come out? Just make sure that you don't go over the edge. I'm just going to bring mine just like this so it looks like that. Okay? The next one I want is this one. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and this is going to overlap, and it's going to kind of center in there a little. Next, see how easy this is our little cup of cocoa or coffee with whipped cream. I'm in mode to get my coffee. And there we have it. Panel 2 is complete. We are now on to panel 3. And I'm going to take a short little break, but you'll never even know it. And we'll tackle that when I get back. We are on panel 3, and let's go over our pre-cuts because we do have quite a few for this. This is the panel that we'll be using a lot of paper on. So the first thing that we had was 2 pieces that were 6 5/8 by 8 inch, and that was P3 fold out. And on each one of these, what we did was we laid these on our scoring board, so we were 6 5/8 inch across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch on both of these. The next pieces that we had were 2 pieces that were 5 1/4 by 8 inch. These were labeled P3 folder pocket. So all we did on both of these is we laid these on our scoring board, so we were 8 inches across. We scored at 4 inches, and that's it. We then cut 2 pieces that were 8 by 12 inch P3 large fold out. So on each one of these, what we did was we laid these so that we were 12 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 6 5/8 inch. And that's all we did with these. Next, we had 2 pieces that were 4 1/2 by 8 7/8. We labeled that P3 large FO side pocket. So that's our large fold out side pockets. And what we did with this is we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4 1/2 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch. Then we turned it so we were 8 7/8 inch across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch and 8 3/8 inch on both. Our last one was a 4 by 6 1/4, and we labeled that P3 side pocket folder. And all we did on that was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 6 1/4 inches across, and we scored at 3 1/8 inch. All right, so the 8 by 12 inch large fold outs, let's grab those. We're going to start with those. Let's grab our folio. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold on those score lines. Oh, so when you're folding, really quick, here is our hinge area, the 2 score lines. And then for this one, I'm going to turn it over so the peak is up. And then we're just going to fold this back. And we're going to make sure it lines up with our paper there. And if you're confused, I will make sure that we get situated the right way. So here are the 2 score lines down here. Then I'm just going to turn it over, peek up, and fold. Okay, here is our inside spine. We have our score line in here and over here. This is the same technique that we did on our panel 2. So over here, our hinge is over here. We'll put glue. We'll just kind of press that back, and here's our inner score line there, and we will just pop that right on in there up against it, and making sure that we are centered top and bottom. So that's what we're going to do. We've done it before, so hopefully you remember. Hello, glue. Well, that is a problem right there. Yeah, I took a break yesterday, go get me some coffee, and then I realized I had to mop the floor. The dogs drug in a bunch of mud on the floor, so that kept me busy for a while. Okay, I'm going to get that right up next to it. I'm going to pull this up, shimmy this So it is pretty even in there. Looks fairly even. I'm going to go with it. I think it's okay. So you have this on the side. We're just going to push back so that this fold out will kind of come over enough for us to get in over here. And our hinge is going to be off to the right hand side, and we're going to do the same thing. Push that back and against this inner score line. And I'm going to try and get that even with my other one. That looks good. All right, so this is what we have, and so here's the thing. You should be able to go like this, and we'll open it up, and we'll start working on P3, the back part. So I'm going to move this out of the way. In your reserves, you will find this very long piece. It's about 12 inches long, and it is about 8 and 5/8 inch this way. The first thing that we're going to want to do, and we're going to have it to where this is at the bottom here rather than like that, we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. We're 6 inches across. We're going to turn it so again this print is over here. We'll measure over 8 inches and cut. Before we go further with attaching any fold outs to this, what I'd like you to do is just lay this down in between those inner score lines of these fold outs. That should give you almost or 1/8 of an inch on either side before it hits those score lines. And that's exactly what we want. So we're going to move this back out of the way. And what we're going to get after here is our 6 and 5/8 by 8 inch fold outs. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold on those score lines. Okay, let's attach. And what I'm going to do is write that here. 6 and 5/8 by 8 fold out. So we'll start with the hinge that's off to the left. Now you have an inside score line and an outside score line. On the outside score line, I want you to pinch and crease on that. Now what we're going to do is just hook that back behind our base sheet there. And once you have it scooted all the way in there, you're going to pinch and hold it. We'll put a little glue on that hinge. Okay, now we're going to push back against the other one. Okay, and let's check to make sure we don't have any glue in there, and I don't. We're going to do the same exact thing with this one. Our hinge off to the right. On the outside score line, we're going to pinch and crease, and we're going to hook it on. Make sure that's all nice and straight there. And we'll glue that down. If you feel your fold out sliding, realign it just in case. Okay, we're going to fold back on that other one. We'll check to make sure we don't got glue in there. And we're going to start with the inside here. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these. On the back, it is brown. We're going to take off that trim piece. Okay. So now that you have the trim piece off, we're going to turn it sideways, and we're going to have this off to the left-hand side. So over here, you would have this trim over here. Look, and we're going to measure over 7 3/4 inch and cut. And that is what you should have. Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 5 5/8 inch and cut. Okay, verify your piece will fit in there, and that should give you 1/8 inch away from that score line on each side. Let's glue those down. When you're gluing these down, what you'll want to do is remember how we had this print at the bottom? Well, you'll notice it's over here too. It won't line up exactly, but it will be good enough to look good. The next two pieces that we're going to work with are the 5 1/4 by 8 inch folder pockets. And I'm going to write that here. Let's fold on those score lines. Okay, we're going to put our paper on here first, and then we will get it down. In your reserves, you will find this print. It is 8 inches wide, and it is about 9 3/4 inch tall. Okay, so that's what we're gonna be 9 3/4 inch tall, and then 8 that way. We're gonna turn it sideways, so all our cups are sideways. We're going to measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut. So that is what you should have. Now we'll look at it like this. Let's measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 3 7/8 inch and cut. Okay, so our opening is going to be at the bottom, and all we're going to do is apply glue to this side, and we're going to center it right on the top. We'll glue that down and we will burnish it down. Okay, let's open these up. Just flip that right on up there. In your reserves, you will have 2 of these. Now, they're not quite the same. On the back, it is this. And one of them is about 3 7/8. That's perfect. And sorry about that. It's 3 7/8 by about 6 7/8. The other one is about 4 1/4 inch by about 7 1/8. So this one, the one that is 4 1/4 inch wide, we're going to measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. So now you should have 2 pieces. If you were to look at them, they're 3 7/8 inch wide. On both of these, what you're going to do is we're going to measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut on both of those. So you should have 2 now that are 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And all we're going to do is apply glue, and those will go right up here. Also, with your scraps that you just cut off these will make great tags if you want to add some tags to your folio. Okay, I got that down. Now let's get the paper for down here. In your reserves, you will find this print. It is 12 inches wide, and it is about 4 inches tall. What we're going to do is turn it sideways. We'll measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. So now that we got that cut down, we'll measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 5 1/8 inch and cut. Okay, let's apply glue and glue these down. Now that we have those done, we're going to close this completely. Now on the back, no paper. So I'm going to show you. The bottom is going to be that flips open. We're going to be turning this over, and again, bottom opening down here. We're going to place glue on the edges along the bottom and up. And then we're going to place it right on over here, centered between the sides. And I'm going to bring mine up just above this little print down here, and I'm going to glue that down. And that will create a pocket for us so that this can also open. So here we go. Put a line of glue here. And we'll be doing the same thing on that side. So what you do here, do over there. Okay. And then you can open that up and burnish. Okay, so we have that. That looks great. And there is nothing else that we need to do. I have my little cut apart here, but you can slide things right on in here as well as picture mats. Now this picture mat is from my other book, but you can slide back behind.